I find it extremely hard to imagine how any creationist who actually bothered to listen to that could possibly doubt the fact of evolution. But they don't listen. I mean, your question is a perfectly good question, but it's not really relevant, because what they do is simply stick their fingers in their ear and say la la la. They know what's true because it's in the Holy Book. And that even, I mean, the most extreme case is the geologist Kurt Wise, who has a PhD in geology from Harvard, and said, if all the evidence in the universe pointed towards an old Earth, I would be the first to admit it, but I would still be a young Earth creationist, because that is what Holy Scripture teaches me. You cannot argue with a mind like that. A mind like that, it seems to me, is, well, a disgrace to the human species.
Given that the host of arguments don't work, what would it take for you to believe in God?
Well, I used to say it would be very simple. It would be, the second coming of Jesus, or a great big, deep, booming bass Paul Robeson voice saying, "I am God and I created." But I was persuaded mostly by actually Steve Zara, who's a regular contributor to my website, richarddawkins.net. He more or less persuaded me that even if there was this booming voice and the second coming in clouds of glory, the more probable explanation is that it's a hallucination or a conjuring trick by David Copperfield or something. I mean, he made the point that a supernatural explanation for anything is incoherent, that it just doesn't sort of, it doesn't add up to an explanation for anything. A non-supernatural second coming could be aliens from outer space. I mean, a superhuman but not supernatural civilization.
We would have to. So if you walked out and there were these globes that were spinning around that said, "I am God, believe in me," or the famous Krauss thing, you walk out into the sky and it spells out in the stars in different languages, "I am God, believe in me." Well, again, the problem is it could be a delusion, but the other problem is you'd have to rule out alternative explanations, like the aliens. I mean, you'd have to. How could you rule out, well, I mean, there could be an alien trickster culture or something. We're going to get those little humans. But you'd have to rule out alternative explanations. That's why I'm not persuaded by either an internal state, certainly not a feeling state. So
Clarke's third law, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, magic being supernatural. If you were to fly a Boeing 747 back to the Middle Ages, you would be greeted as God. I mean, that would be, and similarly, an alien visitation. Any aliens who could actually visit us would have to be so far beyond us in their technology that they probably could manipulate the stars to spell out words or geometric forms or something of that sort.
So that couldn't be enough. So what would persuade you?
Well, I'm starting to think nothing would, which in a way goes against the grain, because I've always paid lip service to the view that a scientist should change his mind when evidence is forthcoming. The trouble is, I can't think what that evidence would look like.
Stick their fingers in their ear and say la la la.
What would persuade you?
Well, I'm starting to think nothing would.
You cannot argue with a mind like that.
What would persuade you?
Well, I'm starting to think nothing would.
A mind like that, it seems to me, is, well, a disgrace to the human species.
Nothing would.
A disgrace to the human species.